All right, let's call the meeting to order. We have a quorum. So, Mr. Smith, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we've got a couple of changes that we need to make on the agenda before we approve it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we amend the agenda. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve or make a motion to amend the agenda to move item number 10, 11, 12, which is the board policies that is presented in our packet, and move that from action to information.
I think also number 13. Is that correct?
That's Chromebook, so no, sir.
That stays?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So this will be to move item 10, 11, and 12.
Yes, sir. That's the first amendment that I'd like to make.
Okay, let's vote on them separately then. So Ken's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, Mr. George has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. And then we got a request to add an item under action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add under the action section, Virtual Academy online learning, pending legal review.
Okay, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you. All right,
We have one more, Chair.
is there? Missed one.
Yes,
So-
sir. There's an amendment to item number 9.
Oh, yes,
Adds,
yes, good.
PACE's fee schedule. And that's it.
Okay, we got one more item to add one more item to the action agenda for the PACE's fee schedule. So we need to amend one more time.
I make a motion that we amend the agenda to include item number 12, I would assume?
9A, I assume.
9A.
9A, okay. Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. George has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you. Recognitions. Dr. Hill, do you have anything for recognitions?
Yes, sir. We have communities in schools. Ms. Fields here? Ms. Sally Fields is going to present something to the board, or actually wanted to show the school board what they did. I won't steal her thunder, but basically they stayed busy during the spring and the summer when we had everybody had to go home this spring. So Ms. Fields, who's the director of our 21st Century program, came up with a great idea and worked with the kids, and I'll let her explain what she's doing, and I'll hold it while you do it.
This is a traveling peace mural. Oh, sorry. Good evening. This is a traveling peace mural that was done with students during COVID. And what we did was drop it off at a student's house, and they would paint a section, and then we would pick it up, sanitize, and it would go to the next student's house. So we had several, each piece you see is a different student. We had a main theme, finding peace, inner peace during these times. And they would kind of come up with their own thought processes. So I think they did a great job. I think it's something positive in this entire situation. So wanted you guys to have it, Dr. Hill, to have it to hang somewhere. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you
Can we
bring it up here so the public can see on the camera?
behalf of the school board and the school system, we thank you so much, 21st Century Program students. We want to thank the 21st Century Program students for this gift. We will hang this up with pride. It does represent a challenging time, but really a good message that came out, and we appreciate all the students who worked so hard to make this happen. I know on behalf of the school board, we'll be glad to display this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
you amended the agenda, but you never approved the agenda. You need to go back.
Oh, you're right. We just approved the amendments. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the agenda now that it's been amended.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Mr. George seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Unanimous. Thank you. Dr. Hill, do you have any more recognitions? Is that, Dr. Hill, do you have any more?
No, sir.
No? Okay.
We'll move right into the reentry plan if you like, sir.
We've got, do we have any public comments?
We did have one call in, I will play it for you.
Okay.
Do you want to read it? I mean, do you need to read the statement even though it's a call in?
Has
Yes.
it been,
Yeah, I will.
okay.
Yeah, we have a call-in public statement. I do not have the statement in,
Number 5.
oh, gosh, sorry, right in front of me, yep. All right, the Pender County Board of Education welcomes comments from our parents, students, and community. The open session for public comment is designed for the Board of Education to listen and respond at a later time if necessary. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. And we have one that was done as a call-in that we're going to play now.
Public comment at August 11th, 2020 board meeting. I have a couple of questions. I'm related to an NC preschool teacher. She is directed tomorrow to go to a cafeteria with all of the staff members,
Alex, this person
which is
identify
roughly
himself?
41 people for a
Okay,
board
no,
meeting.
word policy.
Their name Jason Stewart, their name was on the
Is
list.
that okay?
Okay.
I thought we were limited to 10 people in a room. My next question is, if a staff member is asked to quarantine due to exposure at work, do they have to pay the stipend for a substitute, or is that waived?
That is the message.
Okay, where is that number published?
It's on the release that we put out every week, to call in and leave comments.
Okay, yeah, so the public knows, if you'd like to do public comment, by all means, please call in. And, as Alex said, you'll find the number on the release. All right, under the information agenda, number 1, Communities in Schools gift. And we've already done that under recognitions. So item 2 is COVID-19 reentry plan update. Dr. Hill and staff.
Yes, sir. We'd like to revisit some information that we've been discussing with the board. What we'd like to talk about today is a few important things that, just to give you some updates on, because every day we actually are able to advance with more information we receive. The first slide is basically some key dates that we're shooting for. Is that working? Go to the next. There you go. All right. So our hope is to begin on time August 17th. We're going to be working probably right through the weekend to prepare and be ready for that. And then, of course, in the slideshow that we'll make available online is all the cohort dates that start and the times and everything that's happening right up until the governor's executive order on phase 2 is set to expire. And we'll see where we're at that point. What we'd like to do is update you on the latest numbers. So we'll have every representative as far as chief officer come in and talk about each one of those. The first one being Dr. Aiken, who will update us on the online enrollment.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just to give you some of the latest information, so what you're seeing on the screen is a breakdown each school and then by grade, and then at the bottom we've tried to keep updated the overall percent enrollment of that school that is requested online. Just to give the board the latest that I can, just since today when this was made, Elementary is actually now at 1,011. And then, next, please. Here is the middle school and high school breakdown. Middle school is actually now at 531, and high school is now at 707. So the individual school percentages won't have changed much, but I wanted to give everybody kind of the latest numbers of how that's working out. Just to sort of recap, our elementary programs are using the same models we've discussed, a mixture of our students being tagged into a classroom, which the classroom might be a blended situation. And then there are cases where, due to the numbers at a particular school, a teacher may take on an entire class. And again, one of the reasons that we really wanted to focus on this approach for elementary was given the age and development of the students. And then two, we want to try to plan for the day that all our students can come back. And we wanted our elementary students, if they can come back, to roll straight into a classroom and with a teacher that they've been working with since August 17th. Middle and high school, what we would now like to do is, for our high school students, we have a proposal later this evening to work with our partners from Edmonton, who are the individuals we've been partnering with for the last year for the Pender County Virtual Academy, to expand greatly that virtual academy for all of our high school students. One of the things we want to make sure for high school is, of course, not only do we have promotion standards, but we have graduation standards that we need to make sure that our students are able to move through. One example of the difference is electives. Elective credits are a requirement for graduation in various ways. That is not a requirement in elementary and middle for promotion. So we have a proposal later this evening to greatly expand that so that all of our high school students could move to a full academy version. One of the benefits would be to free up staff for our middle school students. We would like to continue the courseware option that we've looked at, but this would increase our ability to work with middle school staff and some high school staff to support our middle school students as they go through this. We know that they need more support than our high school, and it's a developmental decision. We thought our high schools are a little more used to this. That's a little more the format our high schools have already been in. For middle school, while we have been talking about one-to-one, and we do have some teachers that are doing some amazing stuff, as a broader sense, this is a newer effort in middle school. One of the other things we are still working through is that we need to try to continue to provide instruction, of course, for our students who are coming in person. And I know some slides later on talk about some of the challenges we have with students who are coming to school needing that same direct instruction that our online students are needing, and trying to work that out among a limited number of personnel. So before I leave that, I did want to give a couple updates. So Monday, we did start professional development for our online programs. Dr. Lee and our AIG coaches, our high school coach, and a number of teachers started learning how to kind of use our courseware platform. Orientation-wise, we started reaching out to all of our online students, both middle and high school, to let them know kind of how the orientation process will be working. And I think it was on the schedule, and I'm not sure, but we will start disseminating out the Chromebooks for any of our online students who need that starting tomorrow. So all the wheels are in motion as we speak. Also wanted to share, I think the board was aware, but just in case, last night we were able to start sending out to our principals and to the board our guidance for how we want to try to work with our exceptional children's program. That has been a very lengthy process, trying to understand all the different factors, both legally and then just quite frankly space-wise in our building, and some of the same issues that we have with the 6-foot rule that's dealing with all of our classes. That did take a while, and I apologize, it took a while, but I think what we've created is very sound, is doable, and something that we'll be able to begin working with. Our teachers received that today. Thank you to Mr. Riley. That same document has actually now been sent out on Twitter, I believe, and we've already begun sharing that with some of our parents that have kind of asked for it. We will start professional development for our teachers on that tomorrow, and then being able to release them to begin setting up their IP meetings individually throughout the district. We were able to go ahead and reach out to one group of our EC students, and that are our students with the greatest need, our adaptive level students. We spent some time really looking at our classrooms and really trying to measure every single 6-foot rule issue. And we're able to determine that we can work with those students. Their IEPs already dictate that they really need to be able to come to school the maximum number of minutes possible. So we reached out to them and let them know that they were basically assigned to all cohorts. So our K-8 adaptive students will report Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. They're both A and B cohort. And our high school adaptive students will be A, B, C cohort. They will report each day of the week. Now that we've got this kind of guidance in place, our next step is to work with kind of the next group of students that have a range of different needs, both curricular-wise and some sort of skill-wise, K-12, and that's our next step. I'm trying to think. I know we've got some other slides coming up that I want to make sure everyone's kind of aware of. I think that's it, and I know we have some questions about when we'll present some of the proposals a little bit later this evening. Anything else that I can provide right now sort of on this slide? I know Dr. Blumenreich's going to talk about a little bit about some of the barriers that we face in terms of trying to allow our students to live stream or hang out in or Skype in, I guess, to our classrooms. Anything I can answer immediately? Okay, I'll be back. I'll be back. I think I'm up here a lot tonight, so I'll be back. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. I'm here for.
So, I know that there's been quite a lot of talk about live streaming. There are some barriers, and we're not saying that teachers cannot, of course, interface and Google Meet with their teachers. But we've got to be aware that in terms of really high-quality video and sound, we need a lot of equipment. We're talking hundreds of teachers, hours a day, and to do that properly, we have to have all the right equipment in all the classrooms. Now, that can be done, but it will be kind of ramping up over the course of time and then making sure that we have the funds available to be able to purchase the appropriate equipment to be able to do that. But that's kind of one issue. The second issue, which is also just as important, possibly even more so, is that we currently don't have the bandwidth to be able to do live streaming. We have a 2 gigabyte pipe. And what that basically is we have water outages all the time in Pender County because the pipe's not big enough and the pumps fail and things happen like that. This is a very analogous type of situation. So if we can show that we have a 90% usage over 30 days, so that's 1.8 gigabytes of usage, it is very possible that we can get our bandwidth not only bumped up, but we would also have to do some investment in equipment for our firewall because we have to have a comparable firewall to be able to meet the amount of bandwidth that we have. Our current equipment only meets that 2 gigabyte amount that we have. So it's possible to be able to meet that, but it's going to be over the course of time. So we can up that or get it upped.
Dr. Blumenreich,
Yes, sir.
Who makes that determination about the last 30 days and all of that? I mean,
We go through a regional consortium called NC-REN, and so they work together with NCDPI. This is a statewide issue, and so there's all of these regional consortiums which make these determinations.
so that the public knows, in other words, the state is limiting our bandwidth, is what it amounts to.
Correct. And so this is, again, this is a statewide issue. Our wonderful tech director, Chuck Allen, has spoken with many of his colleagues across the whole state. This is not isolated to Pender County or southeastern North Carolina. This is a statewide issue. And as you've been watching the news, there's a digital divide across the whole United States.
Yeah.
We see this in lots of rural areas all across the U.S.
So the state is basically throttling our bandwidth because they can, is what it amounts to.
Until we can show that we can use our available bandwidth over the course of time.
So just so the public knows, that means they're limiting our bandwidth because school has not been in session for the last 30 days. So now we've got to show that we can use it before we can increase it to take care of school now.
And this is a perfect opportunity for all of our students, when they get their Chromebooks, to get online and for our teachers to deliver the most high-quality instruction that they can via the internet, so we can get our bandwidth upped.
Is our surrounding school districts, is the surrounding school districts that we have, are they, 2 gigabytes also, or are they higher?
That I can't give you that answer, but,
sorry to-
but
yeah.
we have a wizard behind the screen, if he's willing to step out, that may be willing to give us that information.
I just didn't realize how we've compared to other districts when it comes to 2 gigabytes, because that seems to be mighty low for our area.
So going 100% virtual would even cause more issues?
It would crash the system, wouldn't it?
Because you have to remember, the system is using more than just our bandwidth. This is all available bandwidth. And so when you get on with your cell phone and cell towers and all of those transmission, it's taking up all of that bandwidth.
So this is not something that's isolated to just schools. It's like all of the above in your area.
That would be more of a check.
I think
Yeah, so I would relate it to if you're at your house and your kids are watching Netflix, you're watching Netflix. There's got to be times where it slows down. You just saturate your current internet connection, whether it's your home or us at school with 10,000 kids and 1,000 staff. So our connection is solid, but again, if we start streaming in a mass scale, 700 teachers, it's going to fill up very quickly.
and it's also going to affect other internet for other things around the whole county.
Correct. Just your general everyday use, we go over 1 gig during a normal school day, and sometimes peak at 2 gig. So you throw streaming in the mix, and it's just going to increase by that much.
So I mean, in other words, that even the provider's infrastructure can't handle.
Well, and I've talked to them about that, if every county did this, then normally the 30-day period, they bump you up. If you use it, they're going to give you more. If you're not using it, they're not going to give you more, which does make sense. But if you use it, they'll give you more. But if every county started doing that and need more bandwidth, I can't speak to whether they can handle that or not, but I'm sure that would be a challenge.
But they
for
knew
them.
that school was coming. That's my point.
Correct.
So-
And to answer Mr. Smith's question, every district is different. Of course, New Hanover's pipe is larger because they're a larger school system. So I would say ours is comparable for the amount of students we have
Okay,
compared to theirs, yes.
thank you.
Yep. So,
But it sounds like under the whole, if you take all 100 counties in North Carolina, I mean, it's not just us.
no, definitely not, It's something, as Dr. B mentioned, I've discussed with my counterparts across the state. All of them are concerned with this same issue.
I guess it's the rationing part that I don't totally understand, but I mean,
And again, it is bandwidth is, based on the equipment they have, the fiber they have in the ground. There's a lot of factors that are obviously what they can provide to us. And, they couldn't just give us, more without us proving that we're using it. So, and again, they have their limits as well, which is what I'm referring to if every county comes to needing more bandwidth, we'll have to see what happens. So,
well, okay. Thank you.
thank you.
I do want to say, and this was in discussion with Chuck, because of the recording function that Google Meet has, there is no barrier to a teacher saying recording a lesson and posting it in Google Classroom for students to watch. It's the live streaming option that's more of the barrier than the use of recorded sessions to be watched. Does that make sense? So teaching students how to do, say, 2-step equations and showing them on a whiteboard and then posting that as a video, step by step, absolutely, that can be done. But it's much more reasonable in terms of the bandwidth. So there are options. It's not just a no-go, period. So.
I'm just concerned about everybody at home trying to use it. Students, I mean, I don't know that any of the company's infrastructure can handle that, plus what goes on in everyday life. So there is that too, but, okay.
Questions?
Dr. Beatty, you wanna take this opportunity while you're up there to update them on what we're doing with the reports, for the dashboard?
So, let me get out of this for just a moment, and so,
Basically, board, what we're doing is every morning we have a report and what we call a, safety review, team that we have, short-named it SHIRT. I don't know, it just kinda came up, but basically it's a combination of a lot of DHHS personnel from Pender, our lead medical personnel for our nurses, student services, and our HR folks. And every morning they collect all the information about exposures or possible exposures, any symptoms and things like that. And this is where it all accumulate at. So we just wanted to make sure, and we'll try to update you every month, but this will be active every day and every minute of the day to make sure we know what's going on inside the school system.
so all of you have been given access to this dashboard. It is still in the process of being updated. We are tweaking it to be able to meet all of our needs. What was shown to you this last Thursday was a mock-up, so it had test data in there. This is accurate data, what we have, and of course, you can slice it and dice it in a number of ways. So, for example, if you want to pull down students through the drop-down menu, you can see the number of exposures and, of course, diagnoses. You can pull it by staff, and then, of course, we'll give you a different number. Again, this is being worked on. This is a work in progress. We've not done something like this, and, of course, shout out goes to Kim Collins and Kevin Taylor, and most especially making this work, Craig Lawson. So, again, this is a work in progress, so please bear that in mind. But this is accurate and up-to-date information for everything that has been reported to us and confirmed, of course.
Are there any questions about how we're collecting information, board? We just wanted to stop while we were doing the online stuff. But we actually have a data system now, internally that we've developed, so that basically every day, every school reports everything that's going on in the morning. And we have a standing meeting every day with the Department of Health and Human Services. So we meet with them every day, and we discuss what's going on in the school system for safety and health. So the next slide, I think, are going to move us into transportation. Am I right? And Mr. LaFawn's going to come up and talk a little bit about where we're at with that.
Good evening, board members. Just a very quick update on transportation. Cohorts A and B, the bus routes were delivered to the schools today. The route sheets are not ready for drivers yet, but the schools have the routing in their hands so that they are able to manipulate and work with them. Cohort C for high schools is not ready at this time. It is still a work in progress. The EC routing, which was in doubt last week, the transportation department worked very hard. They got DPI involved, big assist from the EC department and high school principals. They were able to get EC routing done. It will be delivered to the schools late tomorrow or early Thursday, but that they are going to have that done. The only cloud in the silver lining is that any student who is enrolled in schools after July 31st will not have a bus assignment until after school starts. And there's just, they have to get all of the bus assignments complete first before they can add students to them. It's just the way the system works. Questions? Thank you.
Hey, Mr. LaFawn,
Yes,
sorry. I know we talked about this the other night, but I wanted to go back to Here Comes the Bus. what is the estimated date that Here Comes the Bus is gonna be operational?
That's very difficult to say, Ms. Burns. In a normal school year, you would say late September, first part of October, in order to get all of the bus routes straightened out. But the way that the system works is it only communicates with one data set, which means, and this year, we're going to have multiple data sets for that system to communicate with. So we're not certain that it is capable of doing that. The company, Synovia, is working very hard to figure out a solution for us. But at this point, Here Comes the Bus, I cannot give you a target date for you.
Okay.
It is not designed to communicate with the system as we have it set up, as it has to be set up this year.
Okay.
Are we
All right,
paying
thank
for
you.
Here Comes the Bus when we're not, it's not set up for this program? Are we, I imagine the answer is yes, but are we paying for that now?
Yes, sir, we are, but we're also we're going to wait and see if they get a solution for us, and then we'll talk to them about that at that point in time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, in that context, Board, we've come across something that we needed to work with the state, and we finally got some guidance on a lot of this. And the attestation forms that went out to the families, so basically what we've agreed to and with DHHS and with some state guidance is that now we can get the forms filled out and they'll be good for 9 weeks, which is kind of more in line with what we normally do with collecting information from parents and reporting periods. So what we're asking is, make sure the public also hears this, is that you were mailed a form, and that basically what you're saying is that when you send your kid to school, or your child or student, they do not have the fever or any of the symptoms that are identified, and that you will sign that form every 9 weeks saying you'll do that every day, that you will not send them to school with the symptoms or a fever. We may run across a situation in the early days where kids are actually at the bus stop, and we made some processes to make sure those kids are taken care of. They'll never be left alone at a bus stop, and that they will be checked. But if they are at school, we will have to make contact with a parent before we can send them to class. Then we'll send a form home. 612, we'll do a similar process, but we will work out that with the older students and send them to class with a form. Hopefully we can get those back. We need 100% of those. So that's important that the public hears that we need the attestation form. I believe they're also online. Is that right, Mr. Riley? Yes, sir. So they can be downloaded as well if you didn't get one in the mail for some reason. So they're readily available anywhere. Just, look on the website or contact us. Same thing with car lines. We know car lines are already a waiting process. We don't want to add to that, but at this point, we are going to have to be letting children out and checking them. And the idea, if the form is readily available, that will speed up the process. If not, then we will have to stop and ask those questions of the parent, give them a form, ask them to fill it out. So to keep everybody moving as fast as we can, even though we know it's going to be a slowdown, this is going to be a different year. We asking all the parents to please, please, please make sure those attestation forms are turned in on the first day and they come to school with those students on their first day to the building.
This is an update to the slide that was shown the other day. If you take a look in the bottom right-hand corner of that chart, when we include our pre-K, we are at 10,132 students, and this was as of about 1 p.m. today. When you take out the pre-K students, we are right at our projected ADM, about 9,900 kids. So according to the best projections we can come up with, we are definitely going to need to place more teachers. We've already placed one at one school, and it's going to start happening. We need to get, of course, a much more accurate count once the students start. And there's a number of ways that we can do that according to guidance from DPI with regards to enrollment processes this year. But we're going to need positions. So something to be aware of. Questions?
So guess the good news is we're a growing system and we continue to grow. The bad news is we're a growing system and we continue to grow. With those growing pains, we have some things we're trying to deal with resources, but we do want to talk a little bit about where the rubber hits the road, which is money. So right now, what we've got is basically 24 staff members who have submitted some sort of medical documentation with pre-existing conditions. At this point, we'll have to have 10 people in the room for those folks with pre-existing conditions. We got 16 vacancies, a lot of EC vacancies, a lot of speech pathologist vacancies is a majority of those 16. We have 5, obviously we have a large percentage of female population that work for us, and we have 5 maternity leaves right now. We do have 3 COVID-related cases of some sort of exposure or near a positive test, which basically gives us about 34 total positions right now that are in need of subs. On an average day, it's $3,700, $3,774 is about the average cost per day for the well, actually the top one is 31 is the normal average cost. Today we have an additional $3,774 as an average cost. As you see, if we stay around this number that we're starting with on day one, it's about a $700,000 increase with sub costs this year. These subs will be 30 hours or more most likely, and so if you add in the benefits and things that come along with those extra hours, we're almost at $1 million for subs this year. And that is what it is when you're dealing with breaking schools up and trying to serve people, offer resources, and protect staff members and students. Next slide. No, never mind. Can you go to the next one? Yeah. So what that'll mean is, along with, we'll have to do a blend. So the top number is 700,000, and the amendment you made to the agenda earlier, which is Ed Momentum Virtual Academy, that's the extra needed service units that'll be available for our students to go online and take courses. And they were pretty close to that guess, because what actually came out was $687,500. So that was kind of our projection, and that was the actual 687 that's in your packet tonight. Will supply resources for those students who are 100% online, or either students who are at high school. The next one is back up. The next one is 495. 463, which is additional subs. That money will come out of the CARES money we've been careful to work with, and the rest will probably come from fund balance, which is basically 1.2 each semester to cover the additional online resources and also cover subs that will be needed for the district. We would like to say that we do not believe this option will be available without additional state funding nor federal funding for 2020, 2021, or past 2020, 21, 21, 22. Can we already start saying that? It's the first time I've said that out loud. I'll be glad when 2020 is over with, though. All right. This was in here for HR. I don't know if Dr. Moore is out here. She's here to answer any HR questions. It's kind of a holder slide, but basically they've been able to say we have about 250 active subs right now, and she can speak more to that if there's any questions from the board about subs or personnel.
I was pleased to know that we're working in the process with the community college to adjust our substitute teacher requirement from being a 2-year associate or equivalent, that possibly a teacher certification or in classroom that's offered. So I was glad to see that that's taking place, and I think that it'll help out tremendously for the shortage that we might be having with substitutes. So thank you for helping spearhead that and what you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, the first cohort was scheduled August 3rd through the 6th. That class is going along very well, and I am in conversation with Ms. Paris over at Cape Fear Community College to see how soon we can get another one scheduled. We posted the need for subs on the Facebook page and so forth, and beginning to get a few bites from that. So we're just hoping that we will be able to staff the classrooms that are truly in need of a sub. And as I keep saying, yes, we have a list that has 250 active subs, quote unquote. You know how that goes day by day. On occasion, you might have someone who say that they will be available, and then they back out. Give you an example of that, when we had flu season running rampant. had sub-scheduled, and because of flu outbreaks, there were folks who became not available. But we're working with our principals to get them scheduled and in place. Any other questions?
I know that you have been bombarded with leave questions this past week.
Yes.
Have you caught up with everyone's questions? Are we good to go there with staff?
With the ones who have actually submitted medical documentation, actually requesting leave, those have been reviewed. In the COVID leave email, we received several emails from individuals who may have said that they were returning, but I'd really prefer to work remotely. There was not an actual request there. So if someone completed the survey, completed the forms, had a doctor to complete them, and then they uploaded them, that was the priority there. But yes, we are beginning to answer or respond to some of the other ones as well.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Moore.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Board, the next slide is a holder slide, but we've got updates on PPE and some orders and some special order items that we're putting out for safety. And Mr. LaFawn, our Chief Operations Officer, is going to come back and speak to those.
Good evening again, board members. This is a PPE update that was sent to the principals today. Starting with floor decals. Floor decals are going down multiple schools, multiple locations. We do not have enough to have them all, the buildings covered by August 17th. We're putting them down as fast as they come in. So some of our schools will open with painter's tape on the floor. But all schools will be marked and in compliance with requirements. I do not have a projected date of when all of the floor decals will be in at this time, but they'll go down as soon as we get them. Door and hallway signage, we don't have any issues there. The doors and hallways will be marked properly as they're supposed to be. Wall-mounted hand sanitizer stations will be in place. They are already here, and our maintenance crew is putting them up daily. Standalone stations should be here Thursday or Friday. Those will be in place by Monday if we have to use the weekend to put them in, to get them where they need to go. Teacher classroom sanitation kits will arrive tomorrow, according to the vendor. They're going to be augmented with some things from ABM and delivered to schools before Friday so that their teachers will have them in their hands. Thermometers. Thermometers are interesting. The thermometers that we ordered are quarantined in customs in California, and we do not have a release date for them from the vendor. However, we were able to call another vendor, and we won't have as many as we ordered, but we were able to get enough to get the schools on a better footing for Monday, and those will be in by Friday. So
On the thermometers, didn't we get a shipment from the state?
Yes, sir, we did. We had 99 total thermometers from the state.
So these are in addition to?
These will be in addition to those. In order to have enough thermometers for the kids to be checked as they come into school, approximately 6 per school is not enough. Questions? Thank you.
So, Board, we've got an update. We had a meeting this morning, and like I said, everything is we're trying to update you to the minute. And Mr. Schwartz was able to get on the line with us and talk to us a little bit about masks and how we deal with those, because we know they've been a hot topic. So basically, we just wanted to really make sure we understood the medical side and the legal side and what would be the best, I guess, procedures to start putting together and have ready for Monday for our staff, to make sure that we were offering the safest environment possible. I guess the quick and short of it is that basically schools are required to ensure all students, K-12 staff, visitors wear cloth face coverings unless the person, parent of a student states an exception applies, is eating or engaged in strenuous physical activity. And that's really the overall statement. What we've done is put in front of you tonight is kind of what we're put together as our procedures for our administrators. We just wanted to make sure that you saw that. And Mr. Schwartz, if you'd like to talk through any of those, answer any of those questions. Does the board have any questions about those procedures and steps? Yeah, hit the button.
The basic concept here is that everyone is, that the schools are the mask requirement is a requirement, not a suggestion. And it's there for the protection of everybody, and to the extent that anybody's not wearing a mask, then the protection is diminished for everybody. And goes down with the possibility of anybody not wearing a mask. So it's set up as a requirement for anybody entering the school building. If an exception is claimed, then there'll be a process to go through to verify the exception. That may require medical documentation if a plastic face shield is not a viable alternative, and a claimed exemption is based on health-related needs or breathing difficulties. And if that's the case, then there's a possibility that we may need to ask for additional information, because it may implicate, for example, the need for the school to put together an asthma plan, or the need to gather additional information to find out if this reflects on or implicates a 504 plan or an IEP. And so those processes will be put in place. We'll have a form that the parent will be able to fill out to claim an exemption if there is a health or medical need, and to determine whether or not the parent will consent to a face shield. If that's not the case, then there'll be healthcare provider verification needed. But that's only if the parent claims an exemption for developmental, medical, or behavioral health needs, or because the student has trouble breathing. And if the parent does not consent to a face shield as an alternative. If there is simply a refusal to wear the face covering or a plastic shield, then the student can be shifted to remote learning. There'd be counseling first before any change there. A non-compliant student who's simply non-compliant without an exception would be removed from the classroom and then transferred to remote learning. There would first be a determination to make sure that, to find out if the student currently has a 504 and IEP, and if so, a meeting would be convened to discuss appropriate services. If a healthcare provider confirms that neither a cloth face covering nor a plastic shield is an option, then the condition justifying that exception may very well trigger processes that do involve us having to collect other documentation or information to determine whether the child has special needs that need to be addressed. And again, if the student has a current 504 plan or an IEP, we would convene a meeting to discuss appropriate services for that child. If at any point during this process additional guidance is available, is needed, it's available through student services, counselors, 504 coordinators, school nurses, the local health department, with legal consult if necessary.
And we do have Ms. Collins here, our lead nurse tonight, and Mr. Taylor, who's our student services director, for any questions as well.
I have a question. Can polyester, someone asked me, polyester mask be worn, or does it have to be cloth and material?
I have not seen any specific guidance on polyester. I do know that we have Shirley Steele from the Health Department online, and I don't know if she has seen any guidance regarding polyester versus cloth.
Good evening, everyone. This is Shirley. I am not aware of anything. Kim Trotman is also on the call. Kim, have you read anything about, I have not seen anything about any type of specific guidance on the type of fabric. Have you?
I have not. I was just trying to look something up real quick and see if CDC had anything, but I'm not seeing anything. Just cloth face covering is all I'm seeing.
I haven't seen anything at all in
So
any
I'll take,
guidance dealing
and
with
I
it.
guess that goes into the next part of the follow-up question I'm getting from some parents is that if they want to send their child with their own face covering mask, or do they have to wear what's provided by the school?
No, they do not have to.
provide their own.
No.
As long as they have something, right?
We
Have a
prefer
mask.
it not be a bandana because it cannot, it's open in the bottom. So it would be best if they did not have the bandana because it's open. You know, it's just basically covering their nose.
How about a gator? Those two, we can use those? Okay.
Oh, as far as I know, I have not seen anything against them using those. Shirley, are you still there?
Yes, we have not seen anything against gators either. Because they're closed at the bottom where they come down around your neck, so you don't have droplets falling out underneath them. So we haven't seen anything against gators.
Thank you.
All right, more questions?
I have a question.
Yes,
Are
sir.
extra masks gonna be available? Because with being cloth that's been presented, they're getting, I think, 5 masks to be washed. And we know that not all homes might have the same luxuries as other homes. So if a child comes and they don't have a clean mask, and it's very apparent that that mask that's being worn is more hazardous because all those droplets and everything that's being left in there, or do we have some type of mask that we can give to the child so that they don't have to wear a dirty mask?
It's my understanding that we have extra masks like the one I have on to give to them if they don't have one or if their situation is what you just described.
Okay, so say if the bus pulls up and there is a child without a mask, are we going to have some disposable masks on the buses so those children can, okay, very
Yes, ma'am.
good.
We're
Thank
trying
you.
to order bulks of masks, the boxes, and have them available. And we're not trying to supply everyone a disposable mask every day. That's why they have
Gotcha.
cloth masks. But yes, we will have some for, they break, they get soiled, they lose them. We're trying to accommodate that. Our hope is that it's almost like school supplies. When you go buy your clothes for school, maybe buy some masks.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Hill, is that all you had for?
Yes, sir. That's
under
the
that?
update.
Okay. All right, fuel and electric costs, Ms. Chestnut.
I'm not gonna cut my way up there, cause there's, all right, I guess I will, microphone. Just trying to, keep informing you like I should, but as you can see, for the fuel and electric reports, for right now, there's not a lot of information, unless you have some questions.
All right, any questions for Ms. Chestnut? Okay, Okay, thank you. Now, those items that we moved earlier, I guess, Mr. Schwartz, this,
Consent agenda.
yeah, that's on consent. So they will still need to be voted on, just,
On the motion was moved to information.
that's what I,
The young group catastrophic insurance, that needs to be approved subject to legal review.
well, but see, on those items at the end of the agenda that we moved them with the
Oh,
vote
talking
to
about the,
information.
Policies.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yes.
They're for first read, board. I can
Yep.
bring Dr. Moore in here, but I mean, they're really for your information and for first read.
Okay,
And you just had a 2 hour.
yeah. In that case, anybody have any questions for Dr. Moore about those? Okay, good, thank you.
So these will be 10, 11, and 12 will be here at this point in the information.
All right, so the consent agenda only consists of item 4.
And it needs to be approved subject to legal review.
Okay, and
We're still waiting for some documents from,
okay, then, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chair, that needs to be approved subject to legal review.
Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda pending legal review for Young Group Catastrophic Insurance 2020-21.
All right, Mr. George has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Ms. Burns has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. All right, action agenda. Item 5. Dr. Aiken, it looks like you are with most of these, all of these. So, item 5, iReady purchase.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just sort of capture all of these. This is kind of a big step toward putting in place the various efforts at making Plan B and then the online student process come to life. So the iReady situation, as you know, the state requires that every single district have a reading platform to measure student growth in reading. This year, after much debate in Raleigh, the decision was to allow districts to choose from a list. First it was 4, then they added a couple at the last second. iReady was one of the ones on the list. It is actually what our K-5 staff, actually K-8 staff were using back in the spring. And it allows us to sort of navigate both in-person and online instruction, and I think sets us up that regardless of whether we are in Plan A, Plan B, or Plan C, we'll be able to use this to meet the requirements. The state provided every district a certain amount based on ADM, which was the $95,000 that is listed in the executive summary. What we would like to do to expand that beyond just reading is to include 4th and 5th grade and to include math as part of that process. So what we are requesting is to utilize the $95,000 that was given to us by the state, along with some of our own money transferred out of the textbook fund. This certainly meets the needs and I think the requirements of what would constitute a textbook in the modern age. Ms. Chestnut and I have already talked, and so seeking approval to be able to utilize not just the reading but the math as well. Take advantage of the $95,244 allotted to us by the state, and then add $41,300.13 of our textbooks fund to be able to provide our elementary program not only reading but math instruction as well through the iReady process.
That's $121,524.
Once you add all parts, including the minimum required portions that we've already tried to process, the actual total expenditure between state-provided and PCS funds would be the $136,544.13. There were some pieces that we needed to get ready ASAP, and we utilized some of the regular instructional funds, and that's the $15,019.50.
If approved tonight, will it be ready to implement at the first of the school year?
We have already been trying to get ready with it. Mr. Lawson has been helpful. We've been working with the representatives, hoping for a positive review by the board that we will start that transfer process. We actually still have our Jump Start students in the program right now. So our goal is to begin that process on Friday. We have training being conducted starting tomorrow. Again, fortunately, the product is the same one our staff used in the spring. So for the most part, it's a refresher, and then bringing on new staff that would not have had that back in the spring. But we anticipate having it ready to go, both for our in-person and online staff.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the purchase of the iReady for the instructional program.
All right, Mr. Smith's made a motion. Do we have a second?
This is Cindy Fontana. I second it.
All right, Ms. Fontana has made a second. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you. And item 6, Edmentum. Dr. Aiken, I had a couple of people contact me about this today. There was some teachers that had some concerns over the way some of the load was assigned, something of that nature, but maybe some of that will get answered with this.
Okay. I'm not sure. Just before I go, I do want to make sure the board is aware that the iReady purchase, the state is just saying that for this year. We don't know what the state is going to tell us. We've never had choice before. We don't know if that choice will continue. And if it does, we don't know what's going to be on the list. And if they change their mind and say all districts will have to pick X product, that is a possibility. So I just want to kind of mention that real quick before we go on. I should have said that earlier. So the next purchase is in looking at our Edmentum, and this is specifically the courseware. What we would like to be able to do is purchase enough slots for the 550 middle school students, and this would be an opportunity for those students to still meet all 4 of the course requirements for the 100% online students. So Mr. Hall, I don't always know, but I know we've had some confusion that teachers thought that they would be teaching the in-person students and also obviously the AB model. And then we've had some staff that thought they were going to be doing that plus serving the part of the 550. We are working very hard not to have to do that. We want to try to utilize the staff that are either approved for teleworking or utilize other staff, including other district staff, which could be AIG coaches. And we may have to look at certified staff who don't have teaching loads, but trying to have all of those teachers pick this up so that as many of our teachers can still just focus on delivering that instruction, kind of the way Dr. Blumenreich talked about using the Google Classroom as a way to get information to their in-person students. So we can certainly reach out to anyone in particular who is concerned about their load. We've never had to do this before. This is sort of what we talked about trying to figure some of this out as we go through it. What we do know is that we have students in the classroom who need someone to deliver certified instruction. And then we also have students who are going to be online who need someone to deliver certified instruction. And right now we're trying to do both of those things at the same time. This particular option is one in which at least our staff would be the contact for that student as opposed to entirely turning it over to Ed Options and having them do it. Right now, we know that for the $29,000, we can deliver the 4 cores, which has been our real big issue for middle school. And it's kind of going back to what does the student need to progress toward graduation? So in middle school, it's the 4 cores. That's how you get promoted to the next grade level. The high school, which is a different proposal later on, you have to do that, plus you have to have your elective courses. So we're trying to distinguish the 2 approaches and just sort of target those. The 100% online option is not ideal, but I think it does meet the needs of students. But I won't say it's as good as in-person instruction. That can't be done. we have reduced the initial order because we did have to purchase some originally to get the PD set up for Monday. So, and working with the company, we reduced by 100 what we were originally going to offer because we'd already purchased some of that to get the PD set up. So that's why we're requesting 450. That is slightly over the number, but we want to try to leave some room should students choose to leave. We are asking all of our 100% online to still commit to the semester, but because of the way the governor's executive order rolled out, we don't have the luxury if a student was to say, I don't feel safe, and we don't ever want someone to be in school and not feel safe. So we do anticipate there'll be some possibly during the year. So we've ordered a little bit more. The 531 is what we have right now. We're requesting a total order of 550, but 100 of those we've already taken care of. So that's our request right now for middle schools, to purchase the courseware version of the academy, which would give us the 4 core options and allow our teachers to still be the facilitators as we look to figuring out how we can concentrate for, especially for middle school, and that may be where the questions are coming from, but especially a focus on our middle school students and trying to create a team of those teachers who can kind of work together and then still work on how do we deliver instruction, because of course our principals still feel the need to deal with the in-person students. So we're trying to do 3 things at once, quite frankly.
Okay.
And thank you for addressing that, Dr. Aiken, because I have spoken with some parents today who've already been contacted by their facilitator with Edmonton. And they were a little concerned because the person who contacted them wasn't really calling themselves a teacher, but a facilitator. And it's reassuring to know that we do have a group of teachers, though, over at our middle schools who are going to be willing to kind of pitch in and help these students who are online, who might need just some more additional help.
And I would want the board to know, I'm not sure what the person called themselves, but all the people involved are certified North Carolina teachers.
Right.
So I would want to make sure that any parent knows that. This is not just sort of people we're picking off the street or sort of random.
And I'm glad that you said that,
They
because like I said, they had called this one parent and identified themselves as a facilitator, but I think it's very important to know that for those parents who have chosen the virtual option, you are getting a certified teacher.
And I do think that once people get into the program and see it, it is, I think, a very well-developed program. It's very paced. And I think one of the other things that's really good about this is that it is a mastery-based approach. The student will go through the curriculum and will turn in assignments, and your progression is based on have you reached a mastery of what you've just learned. It is not a completion-based process where, okay, you turn in an assignment, regardless of what the quality of that was, you go on to the next thing. It is based on have you demonstrated that you understand that concept before you go to the next one.
There's actual assessment in it
Correct.
before you go on to
Correct.
that's good.
And that, I think one of the things we like about it developmentally was it moves toward that mastery-based thinking about what learning should be, as opposed to completion rate. It is about that you don't move to the next thing until you've done this. And one of the things that the facilitator, for lack of a better phrase, is responsible for is kind of monitoring that and making sure that nothing is assigned next until that part is done. And then that way we can identify if there are needs or if a student needs something more than what we're giving them right now. And this is going to be a developing process. This is something we'll be trying to get better at as we go. We've never done this before. Certainly not on the scale, and really with middle school, we've never really done this before. So my expectation is we'll get better as we go. I won't say it'll be 100% perfect on August 17th, but our goal is to get better as we go.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We need to vote on every one of these separately, don't we? I believe.
Sir.
All right, someone make a motion for the last.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we approve the proposal for $29,452.50.
All right, Mr. George has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. Thank you. Next item.
The next is really a renewal of our Study Island, we have been using this product for a number of years. It does provide us both in-person and online support for our middle and high school students in a number of subject areas. So this really is just a renewal request of something we've been using for quite a while. Last year, the only difference was we really brought in professional development. It had been a while since that had been provided for our teachers, and we definitely saw an uptick in the usage rate across the district once we did that. So that is something I want to thank from last year. So for this year, it's really a renewal that we'd like to continue.
Make a motion to approve the purchase of the Study Island.
All right, Mr. Smith's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you. And item 8 is now the Virtual Academy.
Yes, sir.
Is that under you as
Okay,
well?
I
I'm
think
assuming so.
you should change that to 7A instead of 8.
Oh, did we? Okay. Then 7A,
Yes, sir.
since my numbers are off here.
We're going to use numbers and alphabet. All right, so this is, we've sort of discussed this over the last 48 hours as we try to, one, address our middle school, which then also impacted the way we're going to approach high school. Last year, we started piloting with our high school students, in very select cases, a virtual academy, the Pender Virtual Academy. That went exceptionally well. Given the circumstances that our district faces, and because it does offer for our high school students as near a match to the full breadth of courses, both in terms of core, in terms of the AP, and it does offer a pretty wide range of electives. Our CTE cannot be matched up perfectly. There are some CTE courses for which there is not a match for online instruction, but it does have a fair number, and our CTE director and our high school director have worked to try to make sure we identify those. In this particular case, all of our high school students would be registered through this. They would work with the Edmonton curriculum and Edmonton certified teachers, most of which are North Carolina certified. I have had conversations the last 48 hours with our contact. They are now in process of hiring more North Carolina certified teachers to help address not just us, but other districts. What we would like to do is utilize some of our CARES money to make this purchase. What's a little bit different is rather than buying an entire semester slot, and so for example, guaranteeing that student no matter what we would like to do to give us some more flexibility is utilize a month-by-month approach. So what we'd like to do is buy 550 month-by-month slots, so that as people, if they should chance move and leave Pender County because they move off somewhere else, or as we develop students who may want to come into this, say in September or October, we are only going to have to pay for the months that are remaining in that first semester. Prior to this, what we had been doing, because it really had been intended as a full-time, all-year commitment, we had looked at this as you buy the slot for the student because they're going to go from August to June. Because of, we just don't know what's going to happen between now and tomorrow. We don't know what January will bring us. We worked with the company to try to do it a little bit differently. So now what we would do is build each month based on the month, how many students used it that month. I think it'll give us a lot greater flexibility that if we have students leave, we don't then continue having to paying for them because they already started. And it also means that if a student comes in, we don't have to pay for, say August and September if they don't actually arrive or request to move to online until October. So that's kind of what's laid out in the contract. And we just got this in the last 24 hours, so it does say pending legal review. But I think the success it's had the last year, our parents, our students have been highly complimentary of it. Our staff that have been responsible for it have been highly complimentary, have been very pleased with the implementation process. And I think it will allow our high schools, where our teachers, as they're allotted, it's very subject specific. We don't have some of the flexibility to have them teach all different kinds of courses. It'll allow our high schools to then focus on the teachers they have remaining, whether they are teleworking or whether they're in person, to concentrate on those very select high school courses that we still need to deliver. So we'd like to propose to use the $687,500 of CARES money to move forward, and then we will monitor over the course of the first semester and come back to the board to have a discussion about second semester, just depending on whatever plan we're in at the time. And if we're under A, then we expect a lot of our students will come back. But we kind of want to just get through the first semester first without trying to commit even past that, when we just quite frankly don't know what we'll be operating under.
All right.
I make a motion that we approve Edmonton Virtual Academy Online Learning in the amount of $687,500.
All right, Ms. Burns has made a motion. Do we
Ms.
have a
Burns?
second?
That motion needs to be subject to legal review.
Pending legal review.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. George seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you. All right, now item 8. Childcare options.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so flashing back to last Thursday, I shared that Ms. Lofton and her staff and myself have been looking at the question of how to provide for our teachers who will have those students that will be, that will not be in school on days that they're being asked to teach. We had looked at the possibility of utilizing PACE's staff. However, that meant that we would have no ability to offer after-school support. There would probably still have to be some kind of fee structure, and it would eliminate access to some of the substitutes that we've now heard that we would need. Option 2 would be to utilize the concept that our staff are essential staff in order to get things up and going again, and allow those students to continue to work on any of the days that school is open. So for K-8, that'd be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and for high schools, that would be 5 days a week. The benefits for that approach is that it does allow our PACES staff to operate a PACES program, which we'll discuss in just a second. And it also provides at least some additional staff for substitutes. And I think we can do it without having to ask our staff to pay in addition just to come to work. So I'm requesting approval to officially move forward with option 2 in terms of how to support our PCS staff who will be teaching and having their siblings needing coverage on the days they're not in school.
Okay. So, what was the amount of the fee that they'll be charged?
We are, to normally it would be somewhere on the round of $30 to $40. We had not gotten as far as a fee structure for option 1 just yet. But it would have to have had to been a fee in order to work. PACES does not have any state, federal, or local funding. It is a self-sustaining program. So if we were going to use them, we would have had to charge a rate similar to what we might do over the course of time for the after-school. Our after-school, when up and running, has a monthly bill between labor and materials of around $38,000. So we would have had to had either enough people participating or enough of a fee to cover that. And of course, regardless of what we would do, we would still have the same social distancing issues. So we would have to spread our staff out, or our children out on multiple classrooms, which then of course means you've got to have adult in each of those rooms. So it had a number of, I think, challenges to try to make it work.
Okay, but we have enough room to allow these kids to go into
Yes, ma'am. I
their
have
gen
worked
ed
with all of our
classes.
principals have provided feedback that they
thumbs
can
up.
make that. And I want to appreciate our principals too, because we did ask on short notice for them to go back and take a look at this. Obviously, most of the students involved are elementary. We've had several conversations with our elementary principals, and they have been exceptionally hardworking to try to make sure that this would work, because this really did come out after the cohort initial assignments. But between some of the online stuff and just quite frankly their hard work, they've said they can do it. And I think the tone has been, this is what's best for our staff, to try to make sure that we have staff that are able to report and focus on teaching and not every day be up in front worrying about what's happening with their kid.
Dr. Akins, this is Cindy Fontana. Does this also include middle school?
Yes, ma'am. It's any of our staff.
Okay.
But just
I
sharing.
thought so. I just didn't
Yeah.
hear it. Just making sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's just the vast
Thank you.
majority, of course, are elementary age students.
Okay. Any more questions from anyone? Anyone want to make a motion on this?
I make a motion that we go to option 2 for staff daycare.
All right, Ms. Burns.
I second.
Ms. Burns has made a motion and Ms. Fontana has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed?
Aye.
All right, that's a tie. So I will be voting with Mr. Smith and Mr. George.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Aiken, I think,
That probably need to remove the next option then.
we did so many changes that this writing,
The next one was 9A, it was, Pace's fee schedule.
yeah, I couldn't read it's,
Are you moving on from this agenda item, or is there a recommendation to go to option 1 or not? There were 2 options listed. There was a motion that failed for one of the options. I didn't know if those who voted nay were in favor of the other option.
Could you repeat the other option
It
for,
was the
It was
fee-based.
the pay, yeah.
and my concern, and I'll say, is that with all the already expenses that we're having, I mean, I'm for childcare 100%, but I'm also very concerned about, with everyone else that's in our county, having to pay for childcare. Yes, it's a great benefit to have, but I know that the workers at Walmart Food Line, that they don't have that option. That's my only concern, is just with the budget, with the money, because every time I see something with budget-wise, it shows that there's a lot of money going out, and we don't know next year what we're gonna have financial-wise.
Mr. Smith, may I ask, were
Because
you,
you're saying that it would cost,
if we
it
go with,
wouldn't be no cost, I mean,
for
because what I'm
option,
understanding,
for option 2, there would be no cost to our staff.
but it would be cost to our school to operate this, is that right?
No.
Not in additional fees or anything, no, sir. Option
be put
2,
in the
if I have for example, my 2 kids, if I am teaching and my 2 children, which I think they're assigned to a cohort, currently, on the days they're in school, that's great. On the days that they would be on remote learning, I'm still teaching. Option 1 was that we would try to provide a fee-based service using our PACES staff to cover those days that they are on remote learning, but I'm still teaching. Option 2 would be that my students would still be assigned both cohort A and then would also be assigned cohort B, so that any of the days that I am teaching, they would be in school.
I
And-
apologize for misunderstanding.
No,
me.
sir,
With all
my
of this
fault.
stuff that comes in and all these last minute changes,
No,
sometimes
sir,
it's
that-
hard
that
to
is-
keep everything.
That is me, no, sir.
So
we,
that was I guess I was just misunderstanding what was being
No,
presented.
my fault, sir.
No, it's not, I mean, it just, cause I thought what you're saying is we're having to pay someone to be in there, we'll have these kids and they'll be in a whole nother area. But
No,
that's
they're-
not what you're saying. You're saying they would go to school Monday, Tuesday,
Correct.
and then they would go to school also Thursday, Friday.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And I apologize to the board for misunderstanding that. I mean,
No,
it's-
sir. A better way that I probably should have said is, when we talked with our administrators, we understand that there is no good solution to this. One version, option 1, places a burden on our staff to not only continue to teach, but now have to pay daycare in order to go to work. Option 2, the burden really is placed on their colleagues to look at ways to make sure that if my child has already attended on Monday and Tuesday, and they go Thursday and Friday, that we provide some instruction that supports them continuing to learn, do their remote learning that they would have been doing. So that's the burden that we're then asking our colleagues to pick up. So,
So we're not putting any financial burden on our school
No,
system
sir.
by doing this?
no, sir.
And there's not taking up any more space?
We have asked all principals, they provided feedback that they can accommodate the staff, because they'd already all been assigned at least one of the cohorts. And they have worked and said that they can make sure that all students could then continue on.
This is Cindy Fontana. Can I just interject for a second? I just want to make a comment. If there's ever a group of people who can make this work, these principals can make this work. Having been one, you learn how to be a problem solver very quickly and on your feet. So I have to believe in this system, and I have to believe that if they can make it work and it's no additional cost and all of that, then it will work.
No,
I
I
have faith
agree.
in the system.
I agree with you, Cindy, and I think all of us would be on that same page. It's just with some of the last minute changes and all that's been brought in, it could be kind of confusing. Some of the
I
things.
completely understand what you were saying. I completely understand that.
And I don't want it to come across that any of us, regardless of how we vote on this topic, are not in favor or supporting our staff 100%, because I want to make sure that's clear. I just had concerns being fiscally conservative. That was
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
That was my concern, and then also putting any extra burden on the system that we already have a burden to. But if you're going to give me your word that none of that's happening,
There is gonna, the task that we're asking is either to burden our teaching staff to pay in order to come to teach, or asking their colleagues and to work with us to trying to make sure we find ways that on the additional days that the student is there, that one, they continue their remote learning. They may receive additional instruction. If the student's struggling, they can have that, or that we work with our staff to try to make sure they have work that continues along what they're doing. And talking to the staff, if choosing between those two burdens, the burden of asking a staff member to have to pay to have their kids, that is not something that, as a teacher, they've ever really had to do before. It's one of the few things as a teacher is, once my kid hits school age, they are in school at the same time I'm working. Now, our preschool, that's understood. That's a different kind of situation. But when we discussed it with the principals, it was not that one is burden-free. It is which one is the best and most appropriate way to go forward with the biggest benefit.
do we have an idea what number possibly this would be affecting, how many?
I know at one
Just a
point,
just a
yeah, it
general
was
number.
about 130.
For the entire district?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I believe our attorneys want to interject.
I think one of the factors you might want to consider in this is that if you have teachers who have no other child care options because daycare is closed down due to COVID-19 reasons, they might be in a situation where they have to take emergency FMLA, and so the teachers might have to not come in and take leave that they're entitled to under law in the event they don't have other child care options.
Well, we've just got, a lot of people have concerns because, I mean, our citizens in the county have got to deal with child care as well. So and I've had many questions from people about that. So, is everybody, do we need to go back to what now that it's been explained more?
Well, I mean, like I said, I apologize to the board
Yeah.
for that.
Mr. Chair, in order to correct an error on this, anybody who voted on the prevailing side of that, which would be Mr. Smith, Mr. George, and Mr. Hall, could make a motion to reconsider.
I make a motion to reconsider.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion.
I second.
Ms. Burns seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. So, Mr. Schwartz, does this mean the agenda changes slightly? Do we need to deal with anything?
No, it does not change your agenda. The next item, though, you have that you added, I believe, was the PACES, or is that to be done after the budget? PACES fees are next.
That would be next,
It
yes.
it was made 9A on the motion.
Right.
Okay, so it's 9A then, so the budget's next then.
All right, but so,
It was not given a number on the
Does it
scribbled
matter?
handwriting we got, so it was made 9A.
It does connect, I
Okay,
think.
then go, the budget's
connected
next.
what we just
budget on
did.
The motion did say 9A, so it should be the budget next.
All right,
think
but
it
now,
does.
with what we just did,
I think this does connect importantly that
all right, but now how do we proceed with what we just or reconsidered?
You
Do
just,
we-
you made a motion to reconsider, that passed, now you need to have a motion to approve option 2. That motion's back on the floor.
So, but specifically option 2.
Mhm.
Is how okay.
All right, I make, after having a better understanding, explanation of all this, then I'll be the one, be more than glad to make the motion to approve the childcare option of option 2.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion to approve child care option 2. Do we have a second?
A second.
All right, Ms. Burns, seconds. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we're down to the budget, correct? We've made a mess of this agenda.
All right. Okay. Yes, sir. I will
Thank you.
depart.
You're one of many numbers on here.
Thank you, Alex. Board members, good afternoon again. I sent to you, I think on Wednesday afternoon, the proposed draft budget for you and asked for questions, and the last time I checked, I didn't get any, so now I'm gonna ask, do you have any questions again?
I've got one, Ms. Chestnut.
Okay.
Fund 2 is not listed in this budget we're approving. Is that being held for some reason?
Fund 2? Yeah, it is.
Local.
Should've been.
There's 2 Fund 8s, a Fund 1, a Fund 3, a Fund 4,
Oh,
and
no.
there's
Well,
no Fund 2, which is the local.
Yeah, I sent it off by email, and it should have had a Fund 2 in it. I don't know what else to say. Did anybody else not get Fund 2?
I think we should all got the same.
Well, you
We
should
should have
have,
gotten the
Package.
same thing.
because I sent it on the same email. And I actually had one of the technology people help me send it. So that, because I'm not a real good technology person. So,
All right. Any more questions for Ms. Chestnut?
well, I mean,
How do we vote on that,
Yeah.
Mr. Attorney, that's not a complete budget that we have presented to us?
I have no idea what you've got in front of you, because I didn't get it either, so I don't know.
We have the proposed budget, but one of the funds, the local fund section of that budget is not
Did
in the
no-
package.
Nobody got Fund 2? Huh?
I think they probably, when they scanned it, it may have.
Welcome to Google Meet. Enter the.
Jeanette helped me put it together.
Is this right?
I know, but they
Thank
don't
you.
have time.
You are joining a call with 3 other people.
I mean, nobody, I don't know.
You got the latest budget?
Cindy, can you hear us?
Well, I mean,
She just
We're
texted
getting
me
ready
and
to
says she's
email
off.
it to them, Ms. Chestnut.
we can just, I mean, I'll make sure you get it, and I guess we can bring it back up next month to be voted on.
Can we
do-
vote on it, Richard, without it? I mean,
Yeah, I'm back
I
on.
think you're about to get it, so I don't know if you
I
need more time
apologize,
to
because I
consider
thought
it.
sure you got the
We'll
whole
be glad to
budget, because like I
answer. We'll
say,
be
I
glad to
got
bring it back and
somebody
answer
else to help me.
The
because-
other possibility is
Good
the
catch,
board's gonna need to recess the meeting to come back tomorrow, so you could deal with it tomorrow. If you're not comfortable voting on it tonight, once you get it.
Fine with me. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, they'll give you overnight to look at Fund 2. My guess is when it's scanned, it pulled those together.
It pulled two, there's 2 8s on, 2 Fund 8s.
Like I say, I didn't do it, I was back in technology to
We'll
do
get
it,
it to 'em.
because I'm not good at technology and sending stuff. Okay, so Todd, you're gonna make
It's
sure.
only
you-
45 pages.
So, does that mean that we need to, if we're going to recess the meeting just for that one item, Does that mean that we need to do that right now, or can we finish the rest of this agenda?
You can finish the rest of this agenda, but you're gonna recess, and come back tomorrow.
And take up that item
So you
tomorrow.
can take that item up with, along with anything else that's left.
Okay, then we'll do that instead of adjourning tonight.
Todd, you gonna make sure they get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're on 9A.
So Dr. Blumenwright is, if y'all will check before you leave to make sure you got it, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So connected to the previous motion when I was up here, by moving to option 2, we will move forward with our after-school PACES program for our community. And under Plan B, of course, our students will be attending on either Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday. We would like to move forward in providing after-school coverage for those days for the students. Based on spacing rules and staff, our goal is to offer between 250 to 270 spots as they're spread out across our 9 schools. And then what we'd like to do is cut the weekly rate from what it had been previous years of $45 a week down to 20 weeks.
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fontana, are you still on?
I am now. I'm good right now.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
The $20 a week will not quite cover expenses, but Ms. Lofton had been able to have some of a carryover from the previous year, so we'll rely on that to kind of move forward. But we think we can still serve near the same number of students that we always had, just divided between cohort A and cohort B, utilizing the same amount of staff that we have been had. So if I'm a PACES staff and I used to work 5 days a week, I'll still work 4 out of the 5 days, not on Wednesdays. But we can serve any of the students who normally would be there on the days if they would come to school. We think we can provide the after school and do it at a significantly cut rate we would like. So we're requesting to be able to cut the PACES rate from what had previously been of $45 to 20 for the 2020-21 school year.
So this will carry over into next semester if.
Yeah, so this would be as long as we're under this situation until we can,
If we go to Plan A
guarantee.
in second semester.
If we're able to have all students all in, we'd probably like to come to the board and take a look at that, because then if we can get all 500 to 540 at one time, then obviously that's what we prefer to do. So, come back at some point when we're able to transfer off of Plan B. Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone want to make the motion for that?
I make a motion, we approve the modified fee structure for PACES.
Okay, Mr. George has made the motion. Do we have a second?
That should actually
A
include the fee
second.
amount in the
Well-
motion. Should include the fee amount of $20 for the weekly fee.
In the amount of $20 per student for the weekly fee for 2 days per week of the day of their cohort.
Okay, Mr. George has made the motion and Ms. Fontana has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you, board members.
Now you're up to number 13 on the agenda.
I don't have a 13 anymore.
Chromebook loss, damage
See, I was
fee
told
structure.
that was wiped for, okay.
It's the Chromebook loss damage fee structure.
Yeah. I've got it on here, but I had it crossed. I thought we had moved something with it, but at any rate, it looks like this is the last one after all of our mini modifications tonight. Am I correct about that?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
Well, then from now on, let's try to avoid all these changes because, quite frankly, the public sees this, and they expect to see what we're gonna do, and when we have changes, it just makes things kind of messy. So, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, what you have in front of you is a request for Pender County Schools for a variety of factors to begin charging a set of fees for lost and damaged Chromebooks. As you know, with the farming out of devices to a number of our students this past year, we had a number of things occur, such as devices were not returned. There were devices that when we looked for some, they had disappeared at the school level. They were unaccounted for there. And then many of the devices that were returned in unusable condition. So approximately 2,000 Chromebooks, it's about 1,850 thereabouts now, fall under these categories, and they necessitate either replacement or repairs for us to be able to keep adequate numbers on hand to continue to have our students do remote learning when not in school. On that next slide, right after the executive summary, that is a snapshot of the dashboard that Tech keeps, and you can see that currently we have a total of 384 unreturned Chromebooks. We have a total of 350 that have gone MIA at the school level. So that brings us to a total of 734. That total cost, figuring at approximately $230 per Chromebook with appropriate licensing and fees and shipping, comes to approximately $183,000. Of the Chromebooks that were returned, 1,132 were damaged to the point where they needed to be repaired in some manner, shape, or form. If they could be, those damages totaled approximately $33,000. I cannot say enough about the tech department and the amount of time that they have spent not only repairing Chromebooks, but also getting them stored, broken out, disinfected, and up and into a working condition to be redispersed to the students. They've spent a total of 861 hours worth of time getting everything ready for this upcoming school year. They've done a magnificent job. So you can see the breakout by school in terms of damages, combined costs, what types of damages, power port, keyboards, things of that nature. So what we are asking for is on the second page beyond the executive summary, so page 3 of that grouping, is a fee structure that starts with the first time that there's an accidental damage. In the first instance, we would like to charge $30 for repair. How that number was acquired was the average repair is more often than not a screen, and an LCD screen costs about $30. So that's generally what we are seeing. There are also equivalent charges for things such as replacing power ports. A power port in and of itself may not cost $30, but the amount of time that it takes to crack open the box, unscrew everything, replace the port, screw it back in, put everything together. The second accidental damage, we would like to be able to charge $50. If we're starting to see the same person 2 times, there looks to be a pattern here. And so we want to ensure that we keep our Chromebooks in as good a working condition as possible, but also emphasize to the individuals that are checking them out that we would like them to take care of somebody else's property. And then, of course, lastly, with a third instance of accidental damage, and 3 times is a charm in this case, or intentional damage, that it is the cost of repair that is charged based on the current model. Of course, if something is lost, if a device is lost, then of course full replacement cost. Power cords were an issue. We had one student's dog ate their power cord the first week that they were out when they went home in March, literally. And so we would like to be able to charge for power cords because the item doesn't work without being charged. The only way to charge it is with the appropriate power cord. And of course, theft. the county will replace it, but of course, we would need for that to be reported, plus a police report. So we're asking for the board to consider and approve these charges and this fee schedule as appropriate.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Dr. Blumenreich?
Are we going to continue to pursue getting back some of those Chromebooks that did not get returned from the
Absolutely.
previous?
Yes, sir. And that's currently in place. So we are still trying to get everything as much as possible. We would like the property back so we can get it fixed, disinfected, cleaned up, and redispersed.
I make a motion to approve the Chromebook loss damage fee structure that was presented.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. George has seconded. All in favor say aye.
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 All right, unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and board members and staff, there's a new session law that passed 2020-78 that will require you to, by October 15th, put all fees that are approved. So like the one that was approved at 9A for the PACES, and this one will have to be posted on the board's website, and then any revisions that are made after October 15th in the year will have to be added as well.
Okay. All right, comments from board members. I'll start by saying that we appreciate everyone's patience with this process. Our staff has worked and worked and worked to try to make this a reality. And of course, as you know, there's no way to please everyone, but we have, in my opinion, tried to have options here. And remember, some counties do not. So we're trying to, accommodate as best we can. But I'd like to personally thank our central office staff for pulling this together on short notice. I know that, when you hear me up here talking about changing the agenda and so on and so forth, at the same time, and they know this, I really do appreciate what they've done. As for our teachers, I appreciate what you all have done as well, and I know there's a lot of uncertainty, and I thank you for just helping us try to get through this process. But otherwise, on a good note also, Mr. Smith and I visited Pender High School today, and the walkway that we promised some months ago is very near completion and looks great. So maybe we can get some pictures of that up online for everyone to see, and so some progress that once school is started, there should be some happy students about that. Mr. Smith, do you have anything?
Just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for what you're doing, and also our IT department, and then for the agenda that gets put together. I know there's a lot of working parts. If the general public saw how many pages we have to go through and review, but that's just part of the nature of what we're doing. And so I thank Dr. B for his leadership and what he's doing. So thank you for that. And also just ask for the public's assistance in any way, and motivating and having good words of encouragement for your students, because I think they'll feed off of our positive nature, and they probably would feed off of our negative nature. It will not be a perfect year, but I can promise you with our superintendent's leadership and the others on our board and staff in schools, that we will do the very best we can to meet the needs of every student. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what is about to take place, and I believe it's going to be a very positive event. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. George?
I agree with what you and Mr. Smith had to say. Thank you to all the staff. That's everybody from administrators, teachers, cafeteria, custodial. Everyone is making this work. Wish everyone good luck on Monday. Let's pull something off that's never been pulled off in our lifetime. There's a lot of challenges to overcome, and I hope our citizens and are patient with us, and our staff are patient, and as we work through these challenging times.
Good. Ms. Birds?
Like Mr. George just said, I think you guys pretty much summed it up very well. There has been so much effort that has been put into just making this plan be a reality. And Dr. Hill, you, the cabinet, I know that you guys have put in a lot of long, hard hours, and it is appreciated. And I think that if you look at just how many of our students are coming back for in-face instruction, you see that people want this to work. So, for everybody, all I can say at this point is be patient and remember us in your prayers. I look forward to Monday.
All right, Ms. Fontana.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've just been going in and out. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. So once upon a time, I was an assistant principal and a principal in this wonderful county, and there was a superintendent who used to say the following: if you surround yourself with good people, you get good results. But if you surround yourself with great people, you get great results. The group of people that we have in our county is one of the reasons that I so badly wanted to be a part of Pender County School Board. I am so proud. I am so excited for all of you. No, we're not going to make everybody happy, and I wish we could. But I think we also understand that, as Mr. George just said, we're dealing with something we've never had to deal with before. And as Ms. Burns said, please continue to pray for us. This is not easy. This is hard. And I'm sitting here at the Outer Banks right now, taking care of my mom and wishing so badly I could be there so that I could see faces and tell people face to face just how much I appreciate you. And not just as a Board of Education member, but as a mother and as a grandmother of kids who are in the school system. You guys are amazing. Thank you again to everybody from every department and every facet of our school system. You guys are doing an amazing job, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Hill.
Yes, sir. I just got to say I concur with everything you're saying about this staff. These people are coming together and doing hours that people wouldn't fathom doing in the private industry. And I just want you to know that they're doing it without extra pay, and they're doing it with really nothing more than just the desire to overcome an obstacle that we put in front of them and said, pull together and make it happen. And they're doing it. And we did it through a hurricane. We'll do it through this crisis too. We do ask that everybody bear with us, understand that we're going to run across a tree in the road that we have to figure out how to move. We're going to do it. We're going to do what we have to do, but we're also along the way, we're going to make sure our students and staff are safe. We're going to check, and check again, and we're going to make sure that everybody is involved with making decisions along the way. The other piece of this is I just want to remind the public to please make sure you bring that mask the first day, wear that mask the first day. That is a state requirement. And the attestation form, I know how hard it is. We've been in this business for over 100 years. It takes us 3 or 4 days to get report cards back. Please try to bring that the first day. And just want to tell everybody again, we do appreciate the board's support. Thank you so much. We know we have a lot of people out there who still have questions. Please check our frequently asked question document that we are expanding every day, because if you emailed something, the same people that are putting this together, the same people you see on TV, the same people are the only people who are working some of these questions, and we're very, very we struggle hard with HR as far as having support, and we often stop at the end of the day and start answering these questions to try to bring you up to speed. Please check the FAQs on our website, which is our website with restarting together at the end of it, and hopefully your answers will be there and you won't have to wait for a few days for us to email you back. We are trying to answer those as soon as we can. For people in the school, please ask your administrators. Please talk to your principals, because we meet with them regularly. We have virtual meetings almost daily, and so we could get those answers to you faster. So we're trying to support everybody. We're trying to be there for you. Like the board said, this is a together activity, and we just appreciate everything and every staff member and everybody that's pulling together in the community. And then one other thing, we normally do this, and even though it's a little bit late, Mr. George, happy birthday.
All right.
I'm good.
All right, we need a motion to go to closed session. And we will return to do our human resource report, and then we will be recessing after that until tomorrow. And
Mr.
that
Chair-
meeting, who was that?
I was about to make the motion for you. You want
Yeah.
the
Well,
motion
we
for
need-
closed session?
So, yeah, hold on a second.
Okay.
Mr. Schwartz, the meeting place and time, we need to do that when we officially recess at the end of when we come back after closed session.
Yes, you
correct?
do, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Pender County Board of Education, I make a motion that Pender County Board of Education will enter closed session subject to advice from the attorney pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A1 and A6 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under General Statute 115C319 and to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-319-11A3 to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to consider confidential student matters as provided in North Carolina General Statute 143-318-11A1 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 20 U.S.C. 123G and North Carolina General Statute 115C-402.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that's unanimous. Thank you.
from Pender County. It's
All right, Mr. Schwartz, do we need to vote to come out of closed session? Is that, I thought so. Do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to come out of closed session.
I second the motion.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Ms. Burns has seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the HR report?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the HR report.
All right, Mr. Smith has made a motion. Do we have a? Okay, do you want to add the addendum as
I
well,
do.
Mr. Smith? Okay, and do we have a second?
second.
Mr. George is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. And we are going to recess the meeting instead of adjourning. And we will pick back up tomorrow at 2:30. Is it 2:30 or 3?
2:30.
2:30 at the Pender County Schools Central Office, which is at 925 Penderley Highway. For the public's benefit, that will be mostly a closed session, but you are certainly welcome to watch the open parts.
It will also be approving the budget.
Okay, and we'll also be approving the budget. That's correct. That was an item from earlier today. But for the public, you are certainly welcome to watch. It will be live streamed just like this is. That address can be found on our website, pendercountyschools.net. But otherwise, meeting is adjourned. I'm sorry, not adjourned. The meeting is recessed until 2:30 tomorrow.
Hold up.
Did you have something else, Mr. Schwartz?
Actually need to read the website address.
Okay.
I'm sorry. See, the public can access the meeting via the Pender County Schools YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/c/Pender County Schools. And that's the information that will be posted on the website for the meeting tomorrow.
Okay, so our attorney, Mr. Schwartz, has just read the address. So again, for those listening in the public, if you wish to join us, you may go by that address. And if you did not catch that, again, you can look on our website and find it as well. Otherwise, this meeting is adjourned. I keep saying, y'all excuse me, I keep having adjourned on my mind. Recessed until 2:30 tomorrow at 925 Penderley Highway, which is the Pender County Schools